My name is Pastor Dirk, and I was the lead pastor at the Northwoods from 2001 to 2017. Currently, I am living in Perham, but travel most weekends preaching in churches, either filling in as an interim, which I got to do for like 2 different years during COVID time. So God provided when we couldn't go on the mission field. But currently working with the Exodus Road, doing rescue work in various countries, finding and rescuing victims of human trafficking, human slavery. Well, we're pastoring in Chicago and pastoring a small church down near Midway Airport. And when our kids were getting ready to go to school, we knew that we didn't want to raise them in the inner city. And so every year, since I was a little boy, I always vacationed in this area down on Otter Tail Lake. And so my wife and I came up, as we usually do. We just got a little trailer that we rented at a resort down there just to pray. And we began to look at the opportunities if there was anything around. Of course, back then, Fergus Falls was the closest Assembly of God church, and there were no opportunities. So the last day before we were getting ready to go home, I said, you know what? I remember as a little boy, there's a town way at the end of Highway 78. And I haven't been there for years, but let's go there. And we drove in the town, and as we drove in the town, I saw a Subway. And I said to my wife, I said, something's happening here, because all there was a Dairy Queen. And we pulled into a gas station and got a newspaper, and I thought, there are more jobs than there are people here. And before we left town, we met a guy. I don't remember how we met him, but he was an insurance agent. And he had told us about Pastor Larry Refslin, who was going to start a church in town. So we met with him and didn't even ask for position. We just saw that they were going to start a church, and we made a commitment that we're going to move up here and we're available to help. And we just went to church and just attended the church. And then after about 8 months, we were asked to come and help with the kids. So we did. Well, there was a season that my wife and I were just feeling this prompting, and so we had actually stepped away from the church for a little bit, and we were pursuing children's ministry with NHRA drag racing. We were going to pursue that. And at that time, Pastor Larry had stepped down, and they had an interim pastor. And that interim pastor heard about us and reached out and asked if we were, interested in coming back. And he just put it as helping with the kids. And so we did. We had no intention of ever being pastors. And so after about 8-9 months, he unloaded that bombshell. And I remember my wife saying, no, absolutely not. And she said the only way I would do that if there was 100% vote. And so lo and behold, there was 100% vote. Some of the huge wins was just watching how God brought people in, just reflecting back on time. Brian and Sandy Erickson came in. They were wounded at a church. They came in, didn't want to do anything, and they just sat there for like a year. And anytime I'd ask anybody in the church, hey, have you met Brian? Like, no, who's that? But finally, I had written in Illinois a play called The Gospel Comes to Gilligan's Island. And I asked Brian if he would play the skipper, because he would made the perfect skipper. And after that, he came out of his shell, and God raised him up, and he was a great associate. And he ended up starting the Cowboy Church. Stu and Elena, it's hard to top what God did there by just simply carrying a cross down Main Street on Good Friday. And they came and visited, watching what God did by raising them up to become, the youth pastors, and then the assistant pastor after Brian had gone and done the Cowboy Church. And now just watching him pastor a church. So I think one of my greatest joys is watching the quality leadership that God raised up from within to carry the vision. And to be honest, I never had a vision of planting churches, but to see how God raised up 2 churches out of Northwoods without even being a vision of ours, but God raised up the people to make that happen.